Good morning. This is Omni View, episode 109. It's July 11th, 2026, and as always, we're covering what happened from every angle. Let's look at the day's news from every angle. US-Iran talks over safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz now shape global fuel costs and shipping reliability for households and businesses worldwide. U.S. officials are seeking a formal commitment from Iran to halt attacks on vessels in the Strait of Hormuz after an incident earlier this week that Tehran described as a mistake. Negotiations continue amid a fragile ceasefire, with shipping volumes still below pre-incident levels. Bloomberg reporting highlights how U.S. pressure aims to restore reliable energy flows, while Iranian officials emphasize internal command issues rather than deliberate policy. U.S. negotiators frame the pledge as essential for regional stability and lower consumer prices, whereas Iranian statements suggest retaining influence over the waterway could strengthen their position in future talks. Both sides agree the strait carries a significant share of global oil. How might restored shipping affect fuel prices in import-dependent countries? Iran's supreme leader has vowed retaliation linked to his father's assassination, while facing reported death threats from U.S. sources. Iranian statements tie the pledge to long-standing grievances, whereas U.S. commentary frames the threats as responses to regional actions. Both sides accept the personal and political stakes involved. Iranian leadership has described the vow as tied to succession concerns that predate recent diplomacy. U.S. sources have linked the reported threats to specific incidents involving Iranian regional posture. Public statements from Tehran have historically followed similar patterns during periods of internal transition. Observers note that such rhetoric can affect the tone of ongoing talks without necessarily altering underlying positions. Shifting now to domestic policy, a new federal housing measure aimed at lowering costs and increasing supply has passed despite presidential objections that voter ID rules should have come first. The law's effects on home prices and availability are expected to develop gradually. Supporters in Congress argue the bill directly tackles supply shortages that drive up costs for first-time buyers. Critics, including the administration, contend that pairing affordability measures with election integrity rules would have produced stronger public support. Both sides accept that housing shortages have intensified in many regions. Which regions are likely to see the earliest changes in new construction? Elon Musk has become the world's first trillionaire following SpaceX's record IPO, creating a scale of wealth tied to rapidly appreciating technology assets. Bloomberg coverage notes that this milestone reflects how modern economies reward ownership of high-growth companies, prompting Nobel laureate Paul Krugman and Yale economist Natasha Sarin to question whether tax rules written a century ago can address such concentrations. Free market analysts counter that these gains demonstrate successful innovation that ultimately benefits broader markets through job creation and technological advances. Both perspectives acknowledge that previous eras produced comparable individual influence. To understand the broader implications of this kind of wealth, most coverage treats the milestone as a simple personal achievement. Yet the underlying tax code was built around wage and corporate income rather than rapid appreciation of ownership stakes in private companies. When a single firm's valuation jumps through an IPO, the resulting paper wealth often escapes immediate taxation until shares are sold, creating a timing gap that older rules never anticipated. This structure rewards long-term holding of growth assets while limiting annual revenue from unrealized gains, a mechanism that has persisted across multiple decades of market evolution. Next time you see a headline about taxing the ultra-wealthy, ask which specific assets are included, when the tax is triggered, and how similar valuation spikes have been handled before. Meanwhile, Ukraine stated it struck 21 Russian tankers, coinciding with reports that Moscow has halted shipping through a key canal. Ukrainian statements frame the action as a response to ongoing maritime threats, while Russian reports emphasize the resulting disruption to commercial routes. Both sides agree the incidents affect energy transport capacity. Which global supply chains depend on the affected canal? Gaza hospitals are experiencing energy shortages that limit treatment capacity, while Israeli operations continue. Local reports emphasize the immediate strain on medical services, while Israeli positions stress security needs driving the operations. Both sides acknowledge the hospital's vulnerability. International aid organizations have documented reduced operating hours in multiple facilities due to generator fuel limits. Backup systems in the affected hospitals rely on intermittent diesel supplies that have become harder to replenish. Coordination between local medical staff and external groups focuses on prioritizing emergency wards during outages. The Angry Birds Commando Group said it placed incendiary devices on a rail line between Cologne and Dusseldorf, citing opposition to industrial technology's environmental impact. The group presents the action as protest against perceived ecological harm from modern industry. German authorities treat the incident as criminal damage requiring investigation. Both sides recognize the line's importance for regional transport. How do authorities typically investigate coordinated rail incidents? Gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel prices are increasing despite softening crude costs, raising expenses for summer travelers. Bloomberg analysis points to refining and distribution bottlenecks as the driver, while administration statements continue to focus on overall inflation control. Both sides agree consumer costs remain elevated. Which travel sectors feel the sharpest impact from refined fuel costs? Berkshire Hathaway shares are down 1.8% year to date, trailing the S&P 500's 10.7% gain through mid-2026. CNBC reporting notes the gap reflects differing exposure to technology-driven gains, while Berkshire's long-term value approach continues to attract investors seeking stability. Both sides accept market leadership has shifted toward growth stocks. Portfolio managers have pointed to Berkshire's holdings in insurance and consumer goods as factors limiting participation in recent rallies. Investors tracking the comparison often cite dividend consistency versus capital appreciation as the key distinction. The performance spread has widened most noticeably in the second quarter of the year. BrainCo is developing wearable brain-computer interfaces as an alternative to invasive methods such as Neuralink's skull drilling approach, targeting users with compromised neural function. CNBC coverage highlights the appeal of non-invasive designs for broader adoption, while Neuralink's model emphasizes direct neural connection for greater precision. Both approaches accept rising interest in restoring or enhancing brain function. What regulatory standards apply to wearable versus implanted devices? Around 10,000 England supporters are expected at Hard Rock Stadium for the match against Norway, with thousands more celebrating in South Beach. Daily Mail reporting focuses on the scale of fan travel and local festivities, while match organizers emphasize security and logistics for the large crowd. Both sides recognize the event's visibility. Organizers have coordinated with Miami-Dade authorities on transportation corridors leading to the venue. Local businesses report advance bookings for lodging and dining tied directly to the fixture. Security briefings have included protocols for managing crowds along Ocean Drive and at the stadium gates. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum traveled to his Scottish estate with a 60-car convoy ahead of his 77th birthday. Daily Mail coverage notes the scale of the arrival and the estate's size, while local observers describe routine high-profile visits to the area. Both sides accept the logistical demands of such travel. Estate staff have arranged advance clearance with regional police for the route through the Highlands. Residents in nearby villages have noted the convoy's passage as a recurring feature during seasonal visits. Security teams maintain a visible perimeter around the property during the stay. Tomorrow, watch for developments in reports of power shortages affecting Gaza hospitals amid ongoing operations. That wraps up today's Omni View. Remember, the best informed people read more than one perspective. If this show helps you do that, share it with someone who values fair coverage. See you tomorrow. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at Nara Network. Links in the show notes. And before you go, This show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts on tech, science, and markets, each one a short, sharp briefing you can finish on the commute. If today earned its place in your feed, here's your next listen. Models and Agents, your daily briefing on AI models and agents. Find every show free at naranetwork.com. Following the long arcs? Story trackers on naranetwork.com follow major programs across episodes: Tesla, SpaceX, AI, space science, and more. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.